Hello, everyone. Silence is often misunderstood. We associate it with weakness, avoidance, or submission. From a young age, we are taught to defend ourselves, to stand up, to speak out when we feel attacked. So when someone disrespects us, staying quiet feels unnatural, almost as if we are allowing ourselves to be defeated. But in reality, silence is not just a lack of words, it is a decision, a choice, and a powerful tool when used with intention. Disrespect is a trigger. It ignites something deep within us, the need to be heard, to set the record straight, to make sure the other person knows they were wrong. But here's the paradox. The moment we engage, we are no longer in control. The person who disrespected us has succeeded in pulling us into their world, dictating our emotions and forcing a reaction. And the moment we react, we give them exactly what they wanted, our energy. Yet, despite knowing this, staying silent in the face of disrespect feels unnatural. Why? Because silence creates tension. It leaves words hanging in the air, unresolved. It forces us to sit in our own discomfort, resisting the urge to clarify, defend, or fight back. We crave closure, and silence denies us that immediate satisfaction. But what if that discomfort is exactly where the power lies? Consider this: when you respond to disrespect, you validate it. You acknowledge the words or actions, giving them weight. But when you remain silent, you send a different message. You communicate that their words are not worth your energy, that their attempts to provoke you have failed, that they hold no power over you. And nothing is more unsettling to someone seeking a reaction than being met with indifference. People often mistake silence for surrender. But silence, when used intentionally, is anything but. It is the ultimate form of control. It forces the other person to sit with their own words, to confront the reality that they are the only ones speaking, the only ones seeking a fight. And in that moment, they begin to question themselves. Did they go too far? Did their words have any impact? Silence shifts the power dynamic. It places the burden back on them. This is why the loudest response is silence. Not because it lacks force, but because it carries weight. It forces the other person to deal with the full weight of their own words without your participation. It disrupts their expectations. They expected a reaction, a back and forth, a confrontation that would fuel their own emotions. But instead, they are left standing in the echo of their own disrespect, unanswered. There's another layer to this. When we respond impulsively, we often say things we don't mean. Anger clouds judgment. We react emotionally rather than strategically. And later, when emotions settle, we realize that our response didn't serve us. It only prolonged the negativity. Silence, however, creates space. It gives us time to think, to choose our response wisely, or to decide that no response is needed at all. But make no mistake, silence is not always easy. It requires strength to hold back when every part of you wants to retaliate. It requires discipline to resist the temptation to engage. It requires confidence to know that your worth is not determined by the words of another. But those who master this understand that silence is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and often the most effective way to reclaim control. Think about the greatest leaders, the most influential figures throughout history. They did not react to every insult thrown their way. They understood that not every battle is worth fighting. They knew that their energy was too valuable to waste on meaningless confrontations. They chose silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. They understood that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one left unsaid. So the next time you are disrespected, pause. Feel the urge to react, but don't. Let the silence do the talking. Let the discomfort settle. Let the other person sit in the emptiness of their own words. And in that moment, recognize the power you hold, because the loudest response is silence. Not because it is weak, but because it is unshakable. Disrespect is more than just an insult or an act of rudeness. It is an invitation, an open door to conflict, chaos, and negativity. The moment someone disrespects you, they are extending an offer, hoping you will step into their world, engage in their battle, and fuel the fire they have started. But here's the question: will you accept, or decline. Most people accept without even thinking. It feels natural to defend ourselves, to argue, to prove a point. When someone questions our character, mocks our choices, or belittles our achievements, the instinctive reaction is to fight back. We want to correct them, to make them see the truth, to ensure they understand that we will not tolerate their disrespect. But in doing so, we have already lost. We have accepted their invitation and allowed them to dictate our emotions. The moment we engage, we are no longer in control. We have stepped onto their battlefield, playing by their rules. And the more we fight, the more we feed into their energy. They wanted a reaction, and we gave it to them. They wanted to pull us down to their level, and we followed. What we fail to realize is that disrespect only has power when we respond to it. But what happens when we decline the invitation? What happens when we refuse to react, when we choose to ignore, when we walk away? At first, it feels unnatural. It feels like we are letting them win, like we are allowing them to get away with it. But in reality, we are doing something far more powerful. We are taking control. We are choosing not to be manipulated, not to be drawn into unnecessary battles, not to waste our energy on people who do not deserve it. Declining the invitation does not mean we are weak. It does not mean we tolerate disrespect. It means we understand the game and refuse to play it. It means we know our worth and recognize that not every insult requires a response. It means we have mastered the ability to rise above, to stay focused, and to protect our peace. Disrespect thrives on engagement. It grows stronger the more we feed it. But when we starve it, when we do not give it the reaction it seeks, it withers away. The person who disrespected us is left standing in the silence, unsure of what to do next. They expected a fight, an argument, a confrontation, but instead they are faced with nothingness. And nothing is more unsettling than a person who refuses to be moved by provocation. Walking away does not mean we are avoiding the situation. It means we are choosing where to invest our energy. There is a difference between fighting battles that matter and engaging in meaningless conflicts. A wise person understands that not every fight is worth their time, and true power lies in knowing when to stay silent and when to speak. The strongest people in the world are not those who react to every insult. They are the ones who remain unshaken, who refuse to be controlled by the negativity of others. They understand that dignity is not in proving a point, but in maintaining self-control. They know that by declining the invitation, they are making the ultimate statement. I do not need to prove myself to you. This is not about ignoring disrespect completely. It is about recognizing when a response is necessary and when silence is the best answer. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Because when you refuse to engage, you rob the other person of the satisfaction they were seeking. You strip away their power and make them question their own actions. The next time someone disrespects you, pause, ask yourself, is this battle worth my time? Am I responding because it will benefit me, or am I simply reacting out of emotion? What happens if I do nothing at all? More often than not, you will realize that declining the invitation is the wisest choice. Because at the end of the day, your energy is your most valuable asset. Do not waste it on those who seek to bring you down. Disrespect is an invitation, but you always have the choice to decline. Every moment of disrespect is a script waiting to be written. The question is, who holds the pen? At first, it feels like the person who disrespected you is in control. They spoke first, they acted first, they threw the first punch, whether with words, actions, or even silence. Instinct tells you to respond, to defend yourself, to correct them. But the moment you react without thought, you have handed them the pen. You are no longer the author of the situation, you are now playing a role in the story they started. It's a subtle but dangerous shift. The moment you react, they control the narrative. If they wanted to make you angry and you explode in frustration, they win. If they wanted to make you feel small and you scramble to prove your worth, they win. If they wanted to disrupt your peace and you let their words ruin your day, they win. The story unfolds exactly as they intended, and you are simply playing your part. But what happens when you refuse? What happens when you keep the pen in your own hands? What happens when you decide that their disrespect will not dictate your emotions, your actions, or your peace? You take control. You shift the narrative. You change the script. Most people think power is in the attack, but real power is in the response, or rather, in the lack of it. Because when you do not react the way they expect, you leave them confused. You take away their ability to control you. They expected a fight, but you give them silence. They expected an argument, but you walk away. They expected you to explain yourself, but you refuse to justify your worth. And now they are the ones left uncertain. There's a reason why silence is unsettling. It forces people to sit with their own words, to hear the echo of what they just said without distraction. When you react emotionally, you take the focus off them and put it on yourself. But when you stay still, stay calm, and refuse to engage, the weight of their actions falls right back on them. This is why emotional discipline is so powerful. It is not about avoiding conflict or pretending disrespect doesn't exist. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about deciding where your energy goes, because every reaction is an investment. Every time you respond to someone's negativity, you are giving them your time, your focus, your peace. And not everyone deserves that investment. Think about the strongest leaders, the most influential people in the world. They do not react to every insult thrown their way. They do not stop to address every critic. They understand that not every opinion matters, and not every battle is worth fighting. They do not allow their emotions to be controlled by those who seek to provoke them. They write their own script. But this is not easy. The desire to react is strong. It feels like justice. It feels like standing up for yourself. It feels like proving a point. But often, the greatest proof of strength is restraint. The ability to remain unmoved in the face of provocation is a skill that few master. It requires confidence, discipline, and a deep understanding of self-worth. Because at the core of it, people disrespect others for two main reasons. Either they seek control, or they project their own insecurities. In both cases, engaging with them only feeds the cycle. But when you refuse to participate, you break the pattern. You make them question themselves. You force them to rethink their approach. Your reaction is the script. Every word you say, every action you take is shaping the direction of the story. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause, ask yourself, who is really in control? Am I reacting because I choose to, or because they expect me to? Is this worth my energy, or is my silence the stronger response? True control is not about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about knowing that your emotions, your peace, and your energy belong to you alone. No one should be able to manipulate them without your permission. So keep the pen in your hand. Decide what deserves your response and what doesn't, because at the end of the day, the one who controls the reaction is the one who controls the story. Strength is often misunderstood. Many believe it is about dominance, loudness, and the ability to overpower others with words. But real strength isn't found in arguments or in proving a point. It isn't about being the loudest in the room or winning every confrontation. Strength is restraint. It is the ability to control your emotions when provoked, to stay silent when words would do more harm than good, and to walk away when engaging would only drain your energy. Restraint is not weakness. It is the highest form of self-discipline. It is easy to react, to lash out, to defend yourself against every insult. It is much harder to pause, to think, and to decide that not every battle is worth fighting. Those who lack control over their emotions will always be controlled by others. The person who provokes you and gets a reaction out of you has power over you. But the person who tries to shake you and fails, they are left powerless. There is a misconception that silence means surrender, that walking away means admitting defeat. But this could not be further from the truth. Restraint is a conscious choice. It is the decision to protect your energy, to refuse to give someone else control over your emotions, and to maintain your peace despite external chaos. True strength is found in mastering yourself, in choosing your responses wisely, and in knowing that not everything requires your attention. A strong person does not need to announce their strength. They do not need to argue to prove their worth. They know who they are, and that certainty allows them to remain unmoved by the opinions of others. A weak person, on the other hand, constantly feels the need to defend themselves, to explain, to seek validation through words. But words alone do not build strength. Discipline does. Think of the most respected leaders, the most influential figures in history. They were not the ones who reacted impulsively. They were the ones who understood the power of patience, of silence, of carefully chosen words. They knew that reacting emotionally to every challenge would only weaken their position. Instead, they moved with intention, always aware that their restraint was their greatest weapon. When someone disrespects you, insults you, or challenges you, they are setting a trap. They are hoping for a reaction, for an emotional outburst that will make you look weak, unstable, or unwise. If you take the bait, you give them exactly what they want. But when you remain calm, when you choose not to engage, you disrupt their plan. You show them that their words hold no power over you. You make them question themselves. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that disrespect does not exist. It is about choosing how to respond in a way that benefits you, not the other person. Some battles are worth fighting, but many are not. The ability to discern the difference is what separates those who are truly strong from those who are merely reactive. Restraint requires confidence. It requires the understanding that not every situation deserves your reaction. It requires emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize what is worth your time and what is simply a distraction. The more you practice restraint, the more control you gain over your own life. You begin to realize that external forces only have power when you allow them to. Most conflicts do not start with actions, but with reactions. A small insult turns into a fight, which turns into lasting resentment, all because someone felt the need to prove themselves. But imagine if they had simply let it go. Imagine if they had chosen peace over the need to be right. The situation would have ended before it even started. That is the power of restraint. Strength is not in the fight. It is in the decision not to fight when it is unnecessary. It is in the ability to keep your peace even when others try to disrupt it. It is in knowing that your energy is valuable and not everyone deserves access to it. The strongest people are not those who win arguments, but those who do not need to argue in the first place. Your true strength is measured by what you can walk away from, by what you can endure without breaking, and by how much control you have over yourself. Strength is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about knowing your worth so deeply that nothing and no one can shake it. And that level of restraint is the ultimate display of power. When you stop feeding someone's need for a reaction, something powerful happens. You take back control. Every time someone disrespects you, provokes you, or tries to manipulate you, they are looking for one thing: your reaction. They thrive on it. They depend on it. The moment you engage, you are giving them exactly what they want. But when you stop responding, when you refuse to play the game, they are left with nothing. At first, they might try harder. They might escalate their words, their actions, their attempts to get under your skin. This is because they are used to controlling you. They have learned that if they push the right buttons, you will respond. But when that pattern breaks, when you no longer react the way they expect, they are thrown off balance. Suddenly, the power they thought they had over you is gone. People who seek a reaction from you are often feeding their own insecurity. They use your response as validation, as proof that they matter, that they have influence, that they can affect you. When you engage, you confirm their importance. But when you stop responding, you send a different message. They are irrelevant to your peace, your focus, and your life. Silence is unsettling for those who thrive on conflict. It forces them to sit with their own words, their own actions, without the distraction of your reaction. Instead of putting the focus on you, it puts the focus back on them. They begin to question themselves. They wonder why their usual tactics no longer work. They become frustrated, desperate even, because they realize they have lost control. This is why the strongest people do not waste their energy on meaningless battles. They understand that every reaction is an investment. Time, emotion, and energy are all resources, and not everyone is worth spending them on. When you refuse to engage with negativity, you protect your peace. You keep your focus on what truly matters instead of getting dragged into pointless arguments and unnecessary stress. There is a misconception that ignoring someone means weakness, that silence is surrender. But true strength is in restraint. It is in the ability to remain unmoved in the face of provocation. Anyone can react, anyone can argue, but it takes real power to stay calm, to stay in control, to not let someone else dictate your emotions. The beauty of not feeding someone's need for a reaction is that it gives you freedom. You are no longer bound by the emotions others try to stir in you. You are no longer a puppet to their words and actions. You move on your own terms, make decisions based on your own values, and refuse to be manipulated by those who seek to disrupt your peace. This shift does not just affect them, it affects you. The more you practice emotional discipline, the stronger you become. You begin to see how much power you actually have over your own life. You start to realize that not every battle is worth fighting, that not every insult requires a response, that your peace is worth more than proving a point. Some people will never change. They will always seek reactions. They will always look for ways to provoke, to control, to pull you into their chaos. But when you stop giving them what they want, they are forced to face their own emptiness. Without your reaction, they are left with nothing but themselves. And that is often their biggest fear. What happens when you stop feeding their need for a reaction? They lose their grip on you. They lose their ability to influence your emotions. They lose the power they once thought they had. And you gain something far greater. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain the ability to move forward without carrying the weight of unnecessary conflicts. True power is not in how loudly you respond, but in how well you control your response. The moment you stop feeding their need for a reaction, you remind them and yourself that you are in control, and that is the greatest power of all. Silence is one of the most misunderstood tools in human interaction. Many mistake it for weakness, assuming that staying quiet means surrendering or lacking the ability to respond. But true silence is not about helplessness. It is a strategy, a calculated response that holds more power than most words ever could. The question is not whether you are silent, but whether you are using silence wisely. Silence creates space, space for thought, space for control, space for power. In any confrontation, the person who remains calm and composed holds the advantage. The one who speaks impulsively, who reacts emotionally, who rushes to defend themselves, often loses control. Silence forces the other person to wonder, to question, to fill in the gaps themselves. It puts them on edge because they are expecting a reaction, a response, an argument. When they don't get it, they are left in uncertainty. People who use silence as a strategy understand its psychological impact. A pause before speaking can make your words more impactful. A moment of quiet in a heated discussion can shift the balance of power. When you choose not to respond to provocation, you force the other person to sit with their own words, to reflect on their actions without your immediate interference. Many conflicts escalate because people feel the need to prove themselves. But what if you don't play that game? What if you refuse to engage in unnecessary battles? What if instead of reacting, you choose to observe? Not every situation requires your voice. Some things are best left unanswered, some people undeserving of your explanation. Silence allows you to filter what is worth your energy and what is simply a distraction. It is a strategy that demands discipline because it goes against human instinct. We want to defend ourselves, to prove a point, to have the last word. But true confidence does not need validation. It does not need constant explanation. The strongest people do not seek approval from those who do not matter. They understand that silence can be louder than any argument. Silence is also a test. It reveals who is truly in control. When someone tries to provoke you, they are looking for a reaction. The moment you respond emotionally, they have succeeded in manipulating you. But when you remain calm, when you hold your composure, when you refuse to let them dictate your emotions, they are left powerless. They will either grow frustrated or recognize that they cannot shake you. Either way, you win. But silence is not always about withholding speech. It is also about listening. Many people listen only to respond, not to understand. When you master silence, you learn to hear what is not being said, to read between the lines, to sense the true intentions behind words. This awareness gives you an edge in every conversation, in every negotiation, in every relationship. People reveal more than they realize when you let them speak freely, when you resist the urge to interrupt or defend yourself prematurely. This is not to say silence should be used in every situation. There are moments when speaking up is necessary, when your voice must be heard, when staying silent would mean allowing injustice or misunderstanding to thrive. But even then, timing matters. Sometimes the most effective response is a well-calculated delay, a pause that forces the other person to reconsider their stance. When you use silence wisely, you operate from a place of control rather than impulse. You decide when to engage and when to withdraw. You conserve your energy for what truly matters instead of wasting it on temporary emotions. You move with purpose instead of reacting out of habit. And most importantly, you refuse to let others dictate your actions. So the question is not whether you can stay silent. It's whether you are using silence in the most strategic way. Are you letting your silence work for you, or are you letting others mistake it for submission? Are you using it to gain control, to create impact, to protect your peace? Because silence, when mastered, is not weakness. It is the ultimate strategy. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a strategy of strength, control, and wisdom. It allows you to dictate the flow of any interaction, protect your peace, and avoid unnecessary battles. When used wisely, silence can disarm those who seek to provoke you, shift the balance of power, and give you the upper hand in any situation. It forces others to reflect on their own words and actions while keeping you composed and in control. Not every argument needs your voice, and not every insult deserves your reaction. Mastering silence means mastering yourself, your emotions, your energy, and your focus. The power is not in proving a point. It is in knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. So, use silence wisely and let your restraint speak louder than any words ever could. Thank you for your time, and may you always find strength in your silence.